make scientific error. I tell him of this error. And this make him...
Well, that's definitely new. Like a regular Barracuda, but only more acidic. What's up, everybody? Today I want to talk about Bioshock, first released in 2007 for the PC, Xbox 360, and PS3. As usual, we have to ask, what is Bioshock? This time we're looking at an FPS which takes place in a city called Rapture. The gist of the game is you come upon a city under the sea after a plane crash. Once you enter the city, you need to survive an ongoing civil war taking place between the city's founder, Andrew Ryan, and Atlas, the hero of the people. Now on its surface, Bioshock appears to be a shooter, but it's much more closer to an RPG. There's no leveling mechanic, but you do collect items, you do manage an inventory, and you do have to fight very tough foes. Of course, as we play more and more, we collect more items, become more powerful, and those powerful foes don't seem so fierce anymore. The game may appear to be linear, but it does allow us to revisit previous levels, and this allows us to collect money, first aid kits, and vials of Eve, which give us extraordinary powers like bees. Mess with me's, you get the bees. I think the best part of Bioshock is that every part of the game gives off a sense of cohesion. The city feels like Atlantis, but at the same time, it makes sense functionally when you look at each level. The lighthouse works as an indicator to the surface world as a landmark to Rapture. The welcome area is where people would enter the city. There's a medical pavilion which functions as a hospital. Then we have Neptune's Bounty, which is a fishery and small market. Arcadia functions as a forest to produce oxygen. Beside that we have the farmer's market. Fort Frolic is a fun place for shopping, gambling, and theater. It's not for everyone.
You sick fuck, let me out of there!
Hephaestus serves as the main source of power for the city. Olympus Heights highlights Rapture's elite living quarters. Apollo Square shows the residential area of the common citizens. Point Prometheus shows how Little Sisters and Big Daddies are manufactured. And lastly, there's the Proving Grounds, where Big Daddies are tested to see if they are worthy. The themes we come to know in Bioshock fit really well with the 1960s. The music helps a lot, it really builds on a sense of authenticity. The technology we see is fairly advanced, but it makes the game more fun, so we'll ignore that. I must say, I love the graphics in the original game, and the remastered version's even better. Now, the remastered version is what I used to make this video. I've played it on PS3, and both versions were nearly flawless. I think I've had the game freeze once on each playthrough, and it usually has something to do with that goddamn map. One thing the game did really well was the way we search for items doesn't open a new screen like Fallout 3 or The Elder Scrolls. Fallout 4 would copy this same search system 8 years later, which shows how Bioshock was ahead of its time from a design perspective. Even better, the game can be very dark in certain segments. They decided to give items a flicker, that way you'd be able to see them. Whoever decided that? Brilliant. Now if you die, there is a revive system as well. The game features Vita Chambers, which are present in every level. It's basically a chamber designed to restore vigor and spirit to the citizens of Rapture. But in reality, these chambers can instantly revive certain people, like our playable character. The idea of dying and respawning quickly makes death feel seamless, and makes the game more fun than staring at a loading screen like most other games. Oh, and the game also features a hacking minigame, which I'm a big fan of. You better reveal the tiles and sort out the pipes quickly, because hacking starts easier and only gets harder. Sometimes, if you don't change the first pipe right off the bat, in the highest difficulties you might as well restart and take a bit of damage.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Fun fact, freezing devices before hacking slows the liquid. There's also an inventing mechanic by using random components found in each level. This can give the player a lot of specialty ammo like explosive shotgun shells or heat-seeking rockets. It really helps out early on, but it really breaks the later part of the game in my opinion. We can also research the foes we fight, as we are given a camera during the third area of Rapture. The research we conduct grants damage bonuses and extra gene tonics to give the player extra benefits, one of which breaks the game, but I'll come back to that in a bit. To be honest, it feels a bit weird taking close-up shots of enemies trying to kill you.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
It would be one thing if the game had its setting and plot, but to feature so much content and mechanics truly makes Bioshock an experience with ample value. Now, let's talk about the weapons of Bioshock. With the game taking place in the 1960s, the weapons we see fit with the setting perfectly. We have a wrench, which is used for melee.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. What?
A revolver with 6 shots, of course. A Thompson submachine gun.
What the fuck?
A pump-action shotgun.
Nope.
A wacky grenade launcher.
NANI?
The chemical thrower, which is a big letdown, and the crossbow, which is the best weapon in the game. To make things even better, we can upgrade every firearm we find twice by using power to the people stations. I'll just say, the revolver looks hilarious with 24 rounds. I mean, it's right in par with the submachine gun, looks like something out of a futuristic movie. But the upgrades for the shotgun, which includes semi-auto and a damage increase, makes it one of the 2 best weapons in the game. The chemical thrower gets a range increase as well as an ammo consumption reduction, but even then it's still pretty garbage. But the crossbow allows you to do more damage and increase the chance your bolts are not destroyed after using them. Hands down, the crossbow is the best weapon by far, as you can recycle bolts over and over and over.
Ooh, piece of candy.
One of the coolest aspects about Bioshock is, further to firearms, the game gives us genetically modified superpowers. The city of Rapture discovered an amazing substance dubbed Atom from sea slugs found outside the city. Atom allows the inhabitants of Rapture to modify their genetics to have powers which are called plasmids. There's Electrobolt, which stuns our enemies, Incinerate, which burns, Telekinesis to move objects with our mind, Winter Blast, which allows us to freeze our enemies in place, Enrage, which causes our enemies to fight each other, Insect Swarm, which unleashes an angry cloud of bugs at our foes, Target Dummy, which is great for distracting our enemies, and the last 2 I don't really care for at all. They are the Security Bullseye and Hypnotizing Big Daddy. They're very situational. If there's no security or a free Big Daddy around, they're basically useless. The game also has stat modifiers which can help us with various tasks. There are 3 types: Combat Tonics, Engineering Tonics, and Physical Tonics. The combat tonics make you better at fighting, like higher defense, increased damage bonuses from research, and my favorite, Static Discharge, which is an electric shockwave that radiates when you receive melee damage. The engineering tonics give you bonuses based on hacking, inventing, buying, or even security. The physical tonics give bonuses to movement, consuming food, tying Eve and health restoration together, or my favorite, turning invisible when you hold still. The natural camouflage tonic is extremely powerful. All you have to do is hold still for 2 seconds and you immediately turn invisible. I hate not having it in Bioshock 2. Unfortunately, the only way to get it is to research Houdini Splicers, which love to turn invisible. And he's gone. Let's talk about the enemies of Bioshock. For the most part, when we look at the enemies, there's not a lot of variety, but this is greatly made up by the quality and how well they interact with the environment. The citizens of Rapture have been warped from the use of Atom and become fiends called Splicers. Think meth addicts, but not as far gone as bath salts. What I mean when I say they interact well with the environment is when you heavily damage a Splicer, they'll seek out a health station and then resume fighting with you. It really gives off a sense that the enemies in Bioshock are intelligent. There are 5 types of Splicers in Rapture. The first is the Thuggish Splicer, which is focused on melee. Then there's the Leadhead Splicers, which are focused on firearms. Then we have the Nitro Splicers, which use bombs.
Hello there.
After this, we have the Spider Splicers, which like to climb on ceilings and throw hooks at us. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, is the Houdini Splicers, which like to turn invisible and throw fireballs at us. All 5 of these are pretty unique, but I love the dialogue. They sound like real people that have truly lost their minds.
Clean it up! Clean it up!
The City of Rapture also has simple robots, which include security cameras, turrets, and drones, which will hunt us down. If you do enough research on turrets and drones, you can automatically hack them, which makes them much easier to deal with. I couldn't get over how great it was if you smash a shop window, the drones will come after you. I love the realism. The second last enemy I want to talk about is the Big Daddy, which comes in 2 styles. The first is the Bouncer, which moves quickly and uses a conical drill as his primary weapon. The second version is called the Rosie, which uses a rivet gun and can throw proximity mines. Both versions will only attack you if you damage them. The same applies to Splicers as well. They'll only attack Splicers if they are damaged by said Splicer. The main purpose of Big Daddies is to protect little sisters. Originally, they were little girls that were modified to collect Atom from deceased corpses around Rapture. One might ask why families would give up their daughters for this, and there's an extra layer of tragedy when you realize most of them are orphans. Each little sister has been genetically modified by using sea slugs, which makes their eyes glow. They can quickly regenerate from physical damage, and the surroundings which they interpret are more pleasant than what they actually are. One thing that put Bioshock ahead of its time was the karma system around little sisters. We, the player, have a choice where we can rescue or harvest the little sister after defeating the Big Daddy who is guarding them. You should always rescue them though. It's disturbing that the game tries to convince you that you'll get more Atom if you kill the little sisters by harvesting the sea slug from them. The brutal reality is that for every 3 that you rescue, you get a gift that results in even more Atom. Let's literally dive into the plot of Bioshock. Please be aware there are spoilers ahead. Please jump to the timestamp above if you don't want spoilers. We play as a man named Jack who is traveling across the Atlantic Ocean via an airliner. For an unknown reason, the plane we are traveling on crashes. We then come to a lighthouse. As we enter, we find a bathysphere. After a beautiful sequence of events, we enter the city of Rapture. We are introduced to our first Splicer, as well as Atlas. Now that we've entered the city, I should explain the supporting cast. There's Andrew Ryan, who founded the city and is the main antagonist as he tries to maintain control over his city at any cost. There's Atlas, who is the hero of the people who is rebelling against Andrew Ryan. We also have two scientists who lead Rapture in atom and plasma development. They are Tenenbaum and Suchong. Tenenbaum represents the better side of humanity, Suchong not so much. We also get to meet Dr. Steinman and Sander Cohen, which show the decline of the city's leaders into madness. And lastly, we have Frank Fontaine, who was Andrew Ryan's nemesis as he rose to power, but was killed in a shootout by Andrew Ryan's men. Anyways, back to the plot. Our first introduction to Andrew Ryan reveals he's using pheromones to control the population of the city, which has made everyone violent towards outsiders. We learn that public transit has been locked down, with exception to anyone who is remotely related to Andrew Ryan. One could assume our main character must be a distant relative to Andrew Ryan due to us being able to move around the city using bathyspheres and get revived from vita chambers. Anyways, we barely escape an onslaught of splicers and make our way to the medical pavilion. As we travel through medical to meet up with Atlas to escape the city, we are forced to track down the bathysphere key from Dr. Steinman. Fun fact, this guy is a plastic surgeon who clearly lost his mind and started altering people in horrible ways. After we finally end the nightmare surgeon, we have a run-in with Tenenbaum, who tells us we can save the little sisters, as opposed to Atlas, who tells us we need to kill the little sisters to survive. We of course put ourselves to the task of saving every little sister we can. We then make our way to Neptune's bounty. As we progress, we obtain entry into Fontaine Fisheries, where we kill Fontaine's goons and gain access to the smuggler's hideout. Unfortunately, we fail to escape the city when Andrew Ryan's splicers blow up Atlas's submarine, also killing his wife and child. At this point, the game shifts from escape to revenge as we make our way to Hephaestus to kill Andrew Ryan. I have to say, I absolutely loved the voice acting from Atlas when his wife and child die. You truly feel like he just lost his family.
Moira. Patrick. Ain't that just like Ryan?
We enter Arcadia for some forest hijinks when ghosts, poisonous gases, invisible splicers, and we wind up reviving an entire city supply of oxygen. Overall, a good time.
Completely normal phenomenon.
Next up is Fort Frolic. Nothing weird happens here. We get trapped by a psychopath who demands we kill his 4 art students and then make us take pictures of their corpses before he allows us to continue our journey. Definitely no splicers that pose like statues and then come alive to freak you out.
Surprise!
You definitely don't find out Andrew Ryan had a previous affair with an erotic dancer, and you don't think it's suspect that the child was sold to Fontaine by the mother. To top it off, Andrew Ryan found out about the child and murdered the erotic dancer. We'll come back to that. We then arrive in Hephaestus. We sabotage Andrew Ryan's security and witness the most iconic scenes in the entire series. Andrew Ryan, who is out of options, sets the core of the city to self-destruct and tells us we are his greatest disappointment. We then hit the best part of Bioshock. The first big twist is that we have been obeying Atlas's every word whenever he uses the phrase, "Would you kindly?" It takes the first half of the game and flips everything upside down.
Would you kindly? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find it? Would you kindly find it? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a bitch?
It's during this sequence of events we determine we are Andrew Ryan's illegitimate son. Andrew Ryan murdered our mother after finding out we were sold to Frank Fontaine. From that point forward, Suchong genetically modified us to grow at an accelerated rate. At the age of 1, we appeared equivalent to the age of 19. I thought this was brilliant as it explains why Jack never talks. We then find Andrew Ryan. He asks us, what separates a man from a slave? Was a man sent to kill or a slave? Andrew Ryan then issues several commands saying, "Would you kindly?" and we obey his every word. He even reveals how heavily modified our memories have become. We hijacked the plane at the beginning and crashed it to arrive at the city. We have been Atlas's pawn the entire time. Andrew Ryan hands us a golf club and asks again if we are a man or a slave. We then beat our biological father to death. This seemed really strange to myself the first time I saw it, but when you look at Andrew Ryan's final actions, you truly get the sense he was committing suicide in these moments. Atlas then orders us to cancel the self-destruction of the core using Andrew Ryan's genetic key with the phrase, "Would you kindly?" Once we do so, Atlas reveals he is Frank Fontaine. Once we cancel the self-destruct, the city comes under Fontaine's control. Fontaine then dispatches the nearby security systems to kill us. Luckily, Tenenbaum manages to intervene and save Jack before he's killed. We awake in Tenenbaum's safe house, and she vows to help us kill Frank Fontaine, as we have saved many of her children. We learn she undid some of the genetic conditioning, but there are some items Fontaine still controls. As we leave the safe house, Fontaine radios us asking, "Would you kindly go get stepped on by Big Daddy?" But it has no effect. Fontaine then uses one of his backup phrases, Code Yellow, which tells our heart to slowly stop. From this point forward as we play, our health bar will shrink slowly. We then run to Olympus Heights to find Lot 192 in Fontaine's home. After taking the antidote, our body becomes unstable, and we are forced to find another dose. During this time, the plasmids we can choose are randomized. We then make our way to Apollo Square, where we see the aftermath of the civil war between Andrew Ryan and Fontaine. We make our way to Suchong's lab and locate his body after he slapped a little sister in front of a Big Daddy, leading to his demise. Nearby, we find another dose of Lot 192. We then shift our attention to hunting down Fontaine. We head to Point Prometheus, where Fontaine closes a specialized door which can only be opened by a little sister. To gain entry to the special door, we need to become a Big Daddy. Now, becoming a Big Daddy was pretty cool, but one thing that bothers me is your sleeves don't change when you're holding a gun. One of my favorite things about becoming a Big Daddy though is if you go back to an older level, you'll actually fit in, and the Splicers won't attack you because you're a part of Rapture's way of life. One thing I thought was also really cool was when you have to go get pheromones to make you smell like a Big Daddy, you go to where little sisters are produced. As sad as it was interesting to get a hint of what they see, which is fleshed out further in Bioshock 2. We then make our way through the Proving Grounds, where we have to protect a former little sister, and finally obtain access to Fontaine. We enter a laboratory to find Fontaine being injected with a copious amount of Adam. We approach him and stab him using a little sister needle to remove Adam from his body. He lashes out and we battle him 3 times with the removal of additional Adam from his body each time. After Fontaine is defeated, he is swarmed by former little sisters who stab him to death. It's cute, but pretty brutal. We then escape the city and reveal one of 2 endings. The good ending shows Jack reaching the surface and bringing the former little sisters with him, and showing they lived their lives to the fullest, with Jack's final moments being shown with the support of the ones he saved. The evil ending involves harvesting the little sisters and emerging from the city as a monster. For continuity, we'll run with the good ending for Bioshock 2. Overall, when it comes to video games, this game is probably number 1 when it comes to plot. I really like it. I think it's one of the best features of Bioshock. So, in summary, Bioshock is an amazing game, which brings great mechanics, stellar plot, unique world building, and a really solid experience overall. My only complaint would be the game has 1 or 2 bugs, but I don't think it's enough to hold the game back. This is an A+ game in my books, and is truly the pinnacle of the series. The other games are great, but this truly is the best in my eyes. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate watching until the end of the video. And lastly, but most importantly, I hope you all have a great day. You know, the reason I drink so much and I hate golf is probably my father.